From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
How much are you paying to fill up your tractor these days? The sticker shock some farmers are seeing right now. The push to produce.
We have those producers that are anxious to build.
One state is really diving into dairy these days, as farmers in Ukraine continue to push the plant in their war-torn country.
Thank God, he says, they cleared the fields from those cassette bombs.
Ukraine leaders accuse Russia of engaging in food terrorism. What was caught on camera right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Millions of tons of grain is stuck inside Ukraine waiting to be exported. Russia says that won't happen anytime soon, even after officials with the UN offered to cut a deal. Now, last week, global leaders proposed allowing exports from Ukrainian ports in exchange for lifting sanctions on Russia and Belarus fertilizer sales. The goal? Lower world food prices amid rising supply shortages. Now, late last week, Russia dismissed those requests. Moscow's ambassador telling the UN Security Council that rising prices are the result of Western sanctions on Russia. But some of that grain is leaving the country. Russian forces are stealing huge amounts of grain from areas of Ukraine under their control. Isa Soares tracks the grain and the impact it could have on the world's food security.
Before the war, most of the food produced by Ukraine was exported through ports like this. Now these key trading docks have ground to a halt, blockaded by Russia, who, according to Ukraine's defense ministry, has also pilfered an estimated 400,000 tons of grain from Ukrainian farmers in Russian-occupied territory. Footage obtained by CNN from Melitopol, Zaporizhia, shows trucks bearing the white Z symbol of the Russian military, transporting grain to Russian-held Crimea. An act that President Zelensky's administration is calling food terrorism.
This is not just a strike at Ukraine. Without our agrarian export, dozens of countries in various regions of the world have found themselves on the brink of food deficit.
Through satellite images, we were able to identify the Russian merchant ship Matros Poznik, one of three involved in the trade of stolen grain, seen here at the port in Sevastopol, Crimea, on April 29th. From there, the vessel carrying an estimated 27,000 tons of grain, according to maritime tracking site Fleetmon, traveled through the Bosphorus to Alexandria in Egypt, but was denied port. Then it went on to Beirut in Lebanon, but was also turned away. Finally, on May 8th, it reached Latakia, the principal port in Syria, according to shipping sources and Ukrainian officials.
So in this situation, the countries in the Middle East and in the Northern Africa, they don't have choice, okay? And they will import wheat from anywhere from where it's possible. So I think this is really state-supported theft of Ukrainian assets, of Ukrainian grain.
For Russia, stealing wheat and other grains during the war could prove lucrative. The price of wheat has skyrocketed so far this year, more than 60% or so, spiking after the war started on February 24th. And how much of a valuable commodity is it? Well, the price of wheat is now trading about $400 a ton on the world market. As supplies run low and as prices continue to rise, there are fears the war is pushing the world to the brink of a food crisis, with the German foreign minister calling Russia's actions a deliberate war of grains. After seeing for himself the tons of grain, wheat and corn stockpiled in Odessa, the president of the European Council, Charles Michel, vowed the EU, with support from the US, will help look for ways to export grain from Ukraine. Some of it is already being shipped from ports in neighbouring Romania, but still only a fraction of Ukraine's total production. More help is needed if Europe's breadbasket is to continue to feed the world. Isa Soares, CNN.
Meanwhile, farmers in Ukraine continue to do what they can to grow crops. For those with enough seed, fuel and fertilizer, work continues, but it's still not without risk. Now, we showed you this photo a few days ago, a farmer wearing a helmet and flak jacket in the tractor while working in the field. He recently joined a live webinar by the World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine, saying that equipment came from the military Farming is a priority for national security in Ukraine, but it comes with real risks for farmers. Last week, a missile dropped landmines across his field.
When they saw these cassette bombs on the field, they called, of course, the police, the military, and at the beginning, the first troop of those who came to demine the field, one of the experts exploded on their field. So he unfortunately got he was killed. Then the second troop came, and thanks God, he says, they cleared the field from those cassette bombs.
Now, his farm is less than 20 miles from an active war zone. This farmer said he planned to seed about 3,000 acres of spring crops, but they only got 1,700 planted. Fuel prices have tripled, and getting enough is extremely difficult. Wheat prices hit an all-time high last week amid concern about tight world supplies and drought here at home. The Wheat Quality Council's annual Hard Red Winter Wheat Tour of Kansas taking place last week. Scouts putting yields at 39.7 bushels an acre with a total crop size of 261 million bushels. That's 10 million bushels less than the USDA estimate of 271 million just 2 weeks ago. Now, tour participants say the impact of drought was clear in the western and south central parts of the state, but the crop looked better in the east. The fields are still about 3 to 6 weeks away from harvest.
So a lot of variability is expected. No surprises there. The best of the wheat was in central and eastern parts of the state. Central part became the transition. In some areas that got the rains had a good looking wheat crop, and others that saw a poor crop. Out west it was really poor, and as you further southwest you got extremely poor crop. Abandonment is going to be high.
From 90-degree temperatures one day to rain, snow, and cold the next. It's been a wild weather weekend for Colorado, much of the northeastern part of the state under a winter storm warning. Forecasters expected the most amount of snow to fall in the highest elevations west of Denver, with some areas seeing more than a foot of snow. Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joins us. And Andrew, now there are concerns about frost in the northern plains following that cold front pushing through.
Yeah, it's a chilly start to this Monday here. As you take a look at the temperature map behind me, go off to the Billings there, off to the west. 28 degrees likely this morning. Frost and freeze products are out for the northern plains, upper portions here of the Midwestern states, as again we are dealing with those 30s. Luckily, though, we do have some warmer weather in store and just in time as well as we get into that important holiday weekend. Here's a closer look at this Monday, though. Again, we do have that high pressure associated around the Great Lakes and Midwestern states, and that's allowing, again, kind of that cooler air to prevail. But we'll be watching kind of that stationary front off to our deepest south, and that's where, we will be watching for the potential here for some scattered showers. And eventually that front is going to begin to lift its way towards the north here, and that's going to help bring in some heat here as we start off and end off this upcoming week. Let's look at our weather watch for what we're watching for this upcoming week. Heat will begin to build in back north and off to the east along that front, as again it does continue to travel northward, watching a fast-moving low-pressure system that'll bring some rain showers across the Tennessee, Ohio River Valley and Great Lakes states for midweek, and fire danger is going to prevail across the southwest and southern plains. And after a busy weekend of dealing with livestock and maybe doing some planting, sometimes you just got to take a break. Ryan Prophet of Johnson City, Tennessee, snapping this photo of his son Colby. He says they were working in the corral and 8-year-old Colby needed a nap. They can appreciate that. I'll have a look at the NOAA's summer outlook coming up in my full Ag Day forecast.
The latest milk production report from USDA has been friendly for the market. Ag Day's Michelle Rook is here with the details. Michelle.
Clinton milk prices are at near to record highs in the U.S. so far in 2022, and with milk futures in the mid-20s per hundredweight, it looks like it could stay that way for a while. The market is being driven by strong demand, but also tight milk supplies, as indicated in USDA's most recent dairy data. The one notable exception has been South Dakota. U.S. milk production for April was bullish at 19.2 billion pounds, down 1% from last year. Plus, cow numbers were steady at 9.4 million head, and production per cow was nearly static.
We were unchanged on production per cow in the 50 states, 1 pound below a year ago in the 24 states. Again, that coupled together with the cow numbers being unchanged is supportive to the market.
The outlier has been South Dakota, which saw monthly production increases of nearly 21% in March and nearly 17% in April versus 2021. And there is additional production that has already been permitted.
We have those producers that are anxious to build and we can bring more cows in and that economic engine for the state of South Dakota.
However, the chicken and egg is that producers need additional processing capacity before they can add more cows. So the industry is looking at expanding capacity within existing facilities or with a new plant.
We have 9 milk buyers in the state of South Dakota, and it's never bad business to invite another one to come to South Dakota.
And currently, producers are actively trying to recruit another milk processor to the I-29 corridor. Schmal says if production trends continue, milk supplies could tighten later this year when demand increases seasonally. The wild card is still how rising concerns about recession impact demand.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Everything is more expensive these days, including the cost to fill up the tractor. Bloomberg reporting some farmers are paying $1,000 to fill up daily. That's twice as much as what it was just a year ago. Right now, U.S. diesel prices are at their highest ever AAA, putting the average at $5.57 a gallon. Iowa corn and soybean farmer Ben Renshie telling Bloomberg his fuel costs have jumped to $70 an acre from $35. And propane has also nearly doubled in price from last year. Something to keep an eye on as harvest season nears and farmers store and sell that grain. Now, experts say those costs are likely to be significant this year for producers faced with heavy rain and flooding in the north. Still to come, Andrew takes a wider view of weather with a look ahead to the summer and see what's being called the Tesla of strawberries in the country.
Your next piece of equipment is on machinerypete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on machinerypete.com.
Arlen Suderman with StoneX, our guest today. Arlen, as we look at markets from last week, obviously we had a pretty topsy-turvy week, from record-setting prices in wheat to then going down for a couple of days. It's Monday. What do we take away to start this week?
Volatility is going to be with us again. We saw the wheat quality council tour last week put out pictures on the social media of a very poor crop in southwestern plains, and wheat prices plummeted. And that just shows how disconnected at times we are from the immediate fundamentals. It's all about money flow. We took prices to record high prices for Chicago. Kansas City wheat came within pennies of their record high prices. That became very nervous, anxious altitude levels of prices for the fund managers. They started taking profits. We tipped over. Momentum traders added on, even with the support of fundamentals. Now, domestic demand has been soft. We're getting near the new harvest. Export demand, we're priced out of the market. Maybe we need to be as short as this crop is, but money flow was the name of the game last week. That's probably going to continue this week, but the end users are going to be coming back in to that wheat market once we lose that downside momentum, because they're short bought.
As we talk about some of the other grains here, are we done trading planting at this point?
No, I think we're just beginning to trade that at this point. We've really been focused for the spring on corn, making sure we try to buy more corn acres. And so the funds have been shifting money from soybeans to corn. But last week, that really shifted more back to soybeans again, because we're focused on old crop dynamics. We kind of forgot about the corn acres battle. We're going to lose corn acres, probably particularly in the Red River Valley, Minnesota, and in North Dakota. We may have 1 to 2 million acres lost there. The trade will start focusing more on that, I think, as we get to the month of June and realize what has not been planted.
All right, Arlen, appreciate you kicking us off this week with another dynamic week expected. As always, thanks for being here. We'll be back for more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
Contact Arlen Suderman by email at arlen.suderman@intlfcstone.com. It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at unitedporkamericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.
Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joining us. And Andrew, you've got the NOAA summer outlook for us. And I mean, I'm not a meteorologist, but it looks like it's going to be hot.
Yeah, no surprise here. This is what we've been dealing with summer after summer, with things just heating up. And the map behind us really just, again, screams a summer with well above average temperatures at some point throughout the summer expected. And again, taking a closer look at this summer outlook, you can really see where we're really projecting, or where the Weather Service is projecting well above normal temperatures at some point during this summer. Is going to be across the four corners of the desert southwest. Now, this does not mean we won't have a few cool days mixed in here as we go throughout the summer months of June, July, and August, but this does paint the picture here that we could be looking at several days throughout the summer where we could be dealing with some locally average highs above that average high temperature. And as we take a look at that precipitation, you can see a lot of dry weather here across the western parts of the U.S., which is not good news, as again, this is the area that's been continuously dry summer after summer, and the area that is projected to be a little bit more on the wetter side for this summer across the far eastern coastlines here. And this is again where we already have some soils that are still saturated. And as we take a look at that root zone map here, you can see where that water is saturated up across the northern plains, and that is where you saw that normal value of precipitation. But where it's projected to be dry again this summer is where it's already dry, where you see those deeper pockets of red and dark red. That is very dry conditions. Meanwhile, again, still dealing with some wetter soils across parts of the Tennessee and Ohio River Valley. And walking through the precipitation forecast for this week, this encompasses the next 7 days here. And depending on where showers and thunderstorms set up, we could be looking at additional rainfall for parts of the east coast. Meanwhile, again, across the west here, it's going to be hard to get some precipitation, except for the Pacific Northwest, where we'll continue to see a few waves of moisture heading our way. Here's a look at that outlook for midweek for Wednesday. This is going to be the driver here for much of the precipitation chances for this week. This low pressure system will continue to strengthen and work its way across the Great Lakes area. And then it'll be turning warmer here as we end out the week and head on in to the Memorial holiday weekend. And checking a look at our towns for today, Jackman, Maine, cooling down, partly cloudy, high 62 degrees. Rowland, North Dakota, chance of an afternoon shower or thunderstorm. And going over into Providence, Utah, sunny and cool, highs in the 50s.
Coming up, what's the secret to growing the perfect strawberry? One company may have the answer. Plus, Machinery Pete is here.
Hey, stay tuned folks. Coming up, I'm going to highlight 4 items of note that sold at auction last week.
A little dust, a few years of wear and tear, clearly not an issue right now in the used equipment market, as Machinery Pete tells us.
Okay folks, let's take a spin around the block. I'm going to highlight a few items that sold at auction last week that caught my eye. Now, last week here on the show, I mentioned that good used dozers have been selling really hot. Well, a week ago Saturday on a farm auction in Noble, Oklahoma, this 2022 Deere 450K, this thing only had 19 hours on it, sold for $133,000. Now, if we stay in the great state of Oklahoma, last Tuesday on our own Machinery Pete monthly online auction, this 2019 John Deere HX15 batwing mower, only ever been used once, sold for $18,000, which is the highest auction price ever in the U.S. And interesting to note, the 3 highest auction prices ever on HX15s, all in the past 2 months. Now, last Thursday on an online farm auction out of Missouri by our great friends at Sullivan Auctioneers, this 2005 Featherlight 20-foot aluminum livestock trailer, this thing sold for $20,000. That's 17 years old. But again, on new trailers, can you even get one? And if so, what do they cost? Now, also last Thursday, we'll finish with kind of a good throwback from a little auction in Annville, Pennsylvania, this 1954 Chevy 3100 truck. You can see the decades of dust on it there. This thing sold for $2,400.
All right, thanks, Pete. A summertime treat goes high-tech. Why people are willing to pay so much for these strawberries. Next. So how much are you willing to pay for a single strawberry? Well, right now they sell for about 12 cents an ounce in the Midwest, but some fancy Japanese berries sell for quite a bit more than that. Take a look at what's being called the omakase strawberry. Right now they are selling for $20 a pack. That gets you 11 medium or 8 large berries. Now if you do the math, that's $1.82 per medium-sized berry or $2.50 per large berry. Yes, per berry. It's been touted by Michelin-starred chefs for its sweetness, aroma, and creamy texture. It's also called the Tesla of strawberries, and a fruit so delicious that it tastes more like candy than fruit. Now, the company that grows them, Oisi, says demand is so great for the berries, they've opened this vertical farm in Jersey City, New Jersey, exclusively to grow them. And that's all our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on Farm Country.